Hello, this is Claudia Russell with Meet the Beacons. Here we are at the Cohasset Historical Society with two wonderful ladies that lead the Cohasset Historical Society. We have Lynn DeGiacomo and we also have Kathy O'Malley. Hello, Lynn. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your role here at the Cohasset Historical Society?
Yes, absolutely. I am the executive director of the society, and that entails quite a few different things. One of my main tasks is to take care of the collection and store it properly, and with a collections committee, decide what we accept and what we may not be able to care for. That will take a lot of time, and it's a lot of computer work, but it's a lot of hands-on work as well. I also create exhibits of the art collection and anything else that people need me to do. Right now we're in the process of writing a book, and it'll be the second book that I've been involved in here.
Wonderful, wonderful. How about you, Kathy? Why don't you tell us a little about your role here? Thank you.
I've been the president here for many years, and I oversee the whole operation with a lot of help, especially with Lynn's assistance. She and I started out several years ago at a sleepy society down at the Lothrop House.
A sleepy society. Wait, were you actually sleeping?
A smaller version of us at the Lothrop House, which is down on Summer Street. And then when this building became available by the town, we did our homework and decided that it was part of our responsibility and a privilege to preserve. So we were able to sell the Lothrop House and purchase this building from the town, which had been the library, as you know, and then proceeded to grow into a much bigger society. But my rules go by Robert's Rules of Order, kind of. I try not to get involved unless I really have to. I'm not a micromanager, I don't think. But Lynn and I are simpatico, and so we really do everything together.
Yeah, I think you just confirmed she's not a micromanager, right?
Oh, and to echo Kathy, we have a good team as well. We really do. We couldn't.
We've been adding volunteers and people who really learn about the history, and what my goal was to get people who were involved in the town, grew up in the town, and I think we've really done a good job with that.
We have roped in some newcomers to town too, and that's exciting to get them involved so that they feel connected to the history of the town.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's a lot of newcomers in town. You always see for sale signs in town, so I'm sure people come and go.
That's right.
And actually, like myself, my husband grew up in town, and we moved back. So I'm sure that there's people that do come back. Is that correct?
You bet. Yeah, no, that happens a lot.
Me too.
Yeah.
My husband grew up in town, and we moved back.
It's a wonderful place to move back to.
My credibility is my husband was born in town, so we yeah, right. So if you need credibility, anyway.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Cohasset Historical Society for our viewers and our listeners that may not be as familiarized with it? What are some of the events and functions that you have, or how do you enrich individuals' lives in the community to know more about the beautiful town that we live in?
One thing that we would like to correct is that we're not part of the town. We're a separate entity. And the commission, it happens in all towns where the historical societies get confused with the historical commission. And it's very hard to let that be known. But one thing, we're involved with the Back Roads of the South Shore, which is a consortium of, I think now 13 historical societies. So we meet every month and really network and learn a lot from them.
And what are the other towns that the Historical Society meets with?
From Plymouth up to Hingham and the Hull Life Saving Museum, Marshfield, Norwell, Duxbury, and so we've learned a lot, and they love coming here, and people are very impressed with us and the building, even though we're one of the smaller organizations.
Well, that's good for our listeners to know that you are not part of the town.
No, we were founded in 1928 by a group of citizens. I think the first real membership was a little over 100, and they would meet in people's homes. And they would have regular board meetings, and then they would have a speaker. And it then developed that they started to get collections, and they needed a place to store them, like we do now. So they stored them first at Town Hall, and then they were given at the Wilson House, which is on Elm Street. That's our historic house museum, and that became their headquarters in 1936. And then we were given in the 1950s the Maritime Museum. And I believe it was the 1970s we bought the Lothrop House. We used that as our headquarters until we were able to purchase this building. And this building, as Kathy alluded to earlier, has really made a gigantic change in what we are able to do. We are able to have talks, exhibits of a size that we could not have done previously. And so we really have grown, and we're always looking for new members. We are a membership-based organization.
And how many members do you have?
We have about 350. Oh, wow. When we want more, because because
Townwide membership.
Townwide,
Yeah.
because we rely on membership. Again, to echo Kathy, we are not part of the town. We are not funded by taxes. We are funded by membership dues. And we, even though we are a membership organization, we open our doors to everybody. So anybody can come in at any time that we're open and ask for information and our time, and we're happy to do that. But supporting us monetarily would be great too.
So in terms of finding out more about the membership and finding out more about the Historical Society, do you guys have a website, and how much are fees, et cetera? Where can people find more information about that?
We have a website. It's cohassethistoricalsociety.org. Our fees are minimum for yearly membership is $50. Where anyone can give more than that. We're very happy to take more. And then they can give us a call, come in. As I say, we're happy to share our knowledge and information about our archives as well as the society with anyone who would like to come in.
Now, you guys have had some pretty wonderful events in town that I know, being a member of the Rotary Club, I know we come to some of the events that you guys have here in town. What are some of those fundraising type of events that you hold, as well as, historical activities that you hold in town?
Our most recent was a event at the Maritime Museum. Now, our Maritime Museum is under restoration. It is hopefully going to open next summer, but right now it is empty. So we were able to take advantage of that and have a beer and oyster night and a party at the Maritime Museum in September. And it went rave reviews. Everyone loved the new space, and we're now thinking about how we might be able to keep some of it open so that we could do that again. And that was our most recent.
Now, I heard about, a little event called a whiskey night. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, actually, I'm deferring a lot to Lynn because she certainly has been involved in, I think her husband was one of the participants in the men's night.
The whiskey night was part of our exhibit and party that we did. So similar to a PBS show that was set in England. And we had a big opening event, a wonderful, wonderful exhibit here that I had a lot of help from people to set that up. And we had a tea for people who helped us, and the third part of it was this men's whiskey night. And we transformed this building into an English manor with deer heads and squirrels under glass, and
all from your collections?
all from collections in the town of Cohasset. A bear rug, a bear-headed rug. It was wonderful, and we had a whiskey tasting with heavy hors d'oeuvres, and the men who attended loved it, and we have not heard the end of it. They want more, and we want to do it again too. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, sounds wonderful. What about females? Have you done anything for women's nights or anything like that?
We keep talking about that. We had for Downton Abbey. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to say that. We had a tea and an English tea
With a Downtown Abbey theme. Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yes, yeah, so that was fun. But usually we have both men and women at all our events.
So, what other types of speakers have you brought here? I mean, can you give us a little bit of examples of some of the speakers you've brought?
So, well, last summer we had a big exhibit here of art that had been created in Cohasset from 1850 to 1940. And as part of that exhibit and event, we had an artist come in and give us she did plein air painting. Her name was Melanie Kozal. And she then gave a lecture on painting. And then we had recently an appraisal weekend where a panel of experts from New York City came down, and people from Cohasset and other cities and towns were able to bring in things that they owned and have them appraised.
Oh, it's kind of like the Antiques Roadshow.
Which we're not supposed to say.
Very, very similar. And
Well, it's like the Antiques Roadshow. It wasn't the Antiques Roadshow.
So,
It's an appraisal.
the four appraisers did a lecture one night over the weekend, and it was terrific, and we all learned a lot about that. Those are two recent ones that we've had.
What about some upcoming talks or events or fundraising activities?
our next focus is going to be with the holiday stroll downtown, and we had decided that we will open the museums and have all of our activities rather than having a party here, so that we will be part of the town. One thing that we really like to do is partner with other organizations, and we have a whole list of people who we do partner with, and that is one of the ones that I think that's our focus at the moment, and then we'll be planning our other activities. We didn't mention that our newest museum, the Beechwood Meeting House and Museum, another opportunity that we were not looking for, but we were very happy to embrace, was to preserve and protect that building. I don't know if you've been there for any of the activities or not.
But no, I haven't been to the Beechwood one.
So being the stewards of 4 museums and 4 very important buildings in town is a privilege and a responsibility. So we like to spread the word that it's all available. And most of our meetings will be over there. It's a easier setup, I think, and an opportunity to have people travel outside of the village.
Just to finish with the Beechwood Meeting House Museum, it houses our fire collection, including our 2 antique hand tub pumpers, which are amazing. They were just recently restored, and everyone should go take a look at them. You'd be amazed at what a fire engine, for lack of a better term, they're not engines, what they looked like when they were first new, and then to start to realize that they were pulled by hand, and water was pumped by hand, and what people had to do to fight a fire. It's fascinating. It's really worth the trip over there.
That sounds amazing. I mean, I'm sure the collections that you have here, what are fantastic. What would you say would be the most unique or different item or items that you have here in the Historical Society?
One thing that I'm impressed with is the diaries and journals and letters that we have here. I'm not sure about the history going on, how it's going to be documented. But one of our members comes in, and has the Civil War letters that were written, and just it's very emotional. But to find out what exactly was happening, and how hard it was, and the penmanship, and the kinds of papers that it comes on, but that I think our documents are underappreciated by the public, and we have diaries like the ones from the Brig St. John, the Irish famine ship that went ashore, and Lucy Treat, was it Lucy Treat? I think it was, who wrote the diaries. She lived on Atlantic Avenue. Yeah. But those are things that we like to share, and the transcribing them is sometimes very difficult.
Because you can't read the penmanship sometimes, yeah, because it was very different than it is now.
Yeah.
Oh, and what is your
Detailed. And some of it boring. I know we had some of the high school students in, and it's nice to see their wonderment about these lives that they had no idea about.
So if you wanted to come and see them, I mean, how would you go about that if you're interested in reading them? Do you have them on display at the facility?
No, you can. We're open Monday through Friday from 10 until 4, and it's best to call ahead. But people have special interests, and we can't do a by appointment only because you never know who's up in the northern part of the state and decides to come down to Cohasset, and they have roots here. So we're.
Do you have to wear those special gloves to touch the paper, like they see in movies?
Sometimes, but not always. But you do have to use pencil if you're going to be writing. No pens, no food, no gum, no liquids.
No liquids,
No liquids.
no whiskey.
No, not the.
And no staples or no paper clips, right? Archivally correct. Yeah.
So, what is your opinion today about nowadays? We don't write that much with the internet, with email, social media.
So one thing that comes to mind is while we're losing the writing, we're gaining the photographs, because unlike the past when you would take one photograph and it was a chore, now we're getting 25. So the history is being documented in a little bit of a different way, perhaps, and not to say that that's better or worse, but it just is. We're not going to be getting the letters and the diaries. I don't think people are even keeping diaries. It's in the same manner that they did back in the 1870s or earlier, when most of our diaries were dated.
So you're going to have electronic, an electronic form. With the 250th anniversary of Cohasset coming up, can you tell us what your involvement will be with those events?
I can tell you about the house tour that's going to be on June 11th, 2020, and it has probably 5 or 6 houses that are over 200 years old, would you say?
Within the earliest 250
Yeah.
houses.
Wow.
But the whole year is very exciting, and we plan to be very much a part of it. And Lynn can tell you about the book.
We're actually doing a few things. We're going to have an exhibit here of photographs. A photographer in town who does aerial photographs, she's bringing in hers, and we're going to enhance those by putting some of our older photographs with them. So you'll see the changes of the area from our historic photographs to her more modern day aerial photographs, and I think that'll be really exciting for people to see. We are partnering with the school, who's making a 3D model of part of the town, and the model will be on display here. And then we are writing a book along with other folks in town who are doing the photographs for it and the graphic design of it for listing the 250 oldest structures in town. Oh, wow. So it's going to be more of a picture book than a textbook, but it's going to be fun.
Anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
I would like to invite them, and I would like to thank you for having us be part of your new endeavor of the Beacons of Cohasset. But please feel free to come and participate in any of our activities. But membership is fun, and there are some perks to it, too. So just thank you.
Parks are always nice. Well, thank you so much, Kathy and Lynn.
Yes, and please come in, stop by here, the Pratt Building, our headquarters, or visit our Elm Street museums during the summer, or Beechwood, which is open usually on Saturdays. We welcome your questions. We get questions for all the time about, who lived in my house? Do you have any history of my house? And the answer is usually yes. But we get questions on all sorts of things, and we're happy to help out. And just so come on in. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Cohasset listeners, for being with us and Meet the Beacons. And thanks, Kathy and Lynn. Thank you very much.